So have y'all heard about this Southwest flight right here? Where the passenger got up and stripped down to her birthday suit and just started walking around the plane. Like, and I'm sitting here thinking, because, you know, I just took my very first flight. And it just got me thinking. It was like, would it have taken my mind off of things? No. My mind would have gotten even crazier. Like, what is she doing this for? All right, do we need to tackle her? What is she trying to distract us from going on in the background? Like, my head would have been on a swivel, bro. Like, I'm so glad this didn't happen on my plane. But we're going to get to the craziness. Listen, you know how this goes, right? Question everything. You should. And remember, this is for entertainment purposes only. Let's get to it.
It was so shocking.
Passengers on this Southwest flight couldn't believe what they were seeing.
This is getting crazy. Like, this is something that you see out of a movie.
A woman on the plane stripping completely naked.
Wait.
Walking up and down the aisle. We spoke with one of those passengers who asked to remain anonymous. She said they had just boarded the plane in Houston and were about to leave for Phoenix when the woman, while fully dressed, walked to the front of the plane and started yelling.
I do remember her saying that she wanted to get off the flight.
The passenger also said she heard the woman yell that she was bipolar. Then when the plane started taxiing to the runway,
she started like jumping up and down, screaming at the top of her lungs.
The woman took off all of her clothes and continued to yell.
It was very evident that she was having a mental breakdown.
At one point, another passenger said the woman grabbed a flight attendant. Everyone on the plane trying to remain calm. The plane returned back to the gate where another worker came in and covered the woman with a blanket before she took off.
The lady just runs out of the airplane and who knows where she went.
Houston police said she was taken to a hospital for medical evaluation. At this time, she isn't facing any charges.
It was so...
Oh, no. No way, bro. Look. Airlines, listen to me, man. Just listen to me. Y'all need to start hiring your stewardess and your people, like security at a nightclub. They need to be bouncers, like they need to be dudes that's ready to just grab somebody and be like, you know how they be dragging people out the club? Like that. That's who y'all need to have as y'all's with flight attendants and stuff like that. No, they need to be like people who could have been ex-military, Marine, stuff like that. That's what we need. That's what's gonna make people feel safe. The fact that she was just able to do that and nobody did nothing, she should have been tackled a long time ago. You know how when people run on the field on football games and all of a sudden you hear the crowd go, ooh, that's what was needed.
This morning, the former poster boy of crypto, who prosecutors said ran one of the biggest financial frauds in history, is speaking from the decrepit, sometimes violent jail where he's being held. Sam Bankman-Fried talking to Tucker Carlson.
The place I'm in, I'm not in physical danger.
How you doing, Sam?
In 2023, Bankman-Fried was convicted of stealing billions from customers of his crypto exchange FTX. Bankman-Fried telling George Stephanopoulos in 2022 he accepted responsibility.
But you're ultimately responsible.
And ultimately, absolutely, I should have been on top of this, and I feel really, really bad and regretful that I wasn't, and a lot of people got hurt, and that's on me.
Now, Bankman-Fried is sharing a dormitory-style living unit with music mogul and accused sex trafficker Sean Diddy Combs, who just yesterday was charged in a new indictment with forcing at least one of his employees into sex.
He's been kind to people in the unit. He's been kind to me.
This morning, the former poster boy of crypto, who prosecutors said ran one of the biggest financial frauds.
That's interesting. Like, the whole time he's speaking, I'm thinking, like, how much of that he had to pay back? I'm pretty sure he got a nice little stash of money somewhere. How long? He's serving a 25-year sentence, so if he makes it out of there, he probably got a nice little stash of money somewhere. You know what I mean? And then, what type of conversations you think him and Diddy are having in there? Like two masterminds like that? I know the prisoners is in there with notepads and pens and stuff, just like. Anything they say, I'd be writing down, except the bad stuff.
I think both parties want to settle.
I think if I wasn't president, this war would have had no chance of settlement, zero chance. But I think we're going to get it settled and stopped. We got to stop. They're losing on average 2,000 soldiers a week. That's a lot of soldiers. Do you agree, Peter?
It's a lot of soldiers on both sides. I agree. Do you, Mr. President, think that Vladimir Putin is taking advantage of the U.S. pause right now on intelligence and military aid to Ukraine?
No, I actually think he's doing what anybody else would do. I think he wants to get it stopped and settled, and I think he's hitting them harder than he's been hitting them. And I think probably anybody in that position would be doing that right now. He wants to get it ended, and I think Ukraine wants to get it ended, but I don't see, it's crazy. They're taking tremendous punishment. I don't quite get it, but I suspect, Michael, he probably wants to get it ended.
He does, Mr. President. The Russians are taking incredible losses on the front. As the president has said, this is a meat grinder of people, of material, of national treasure, and no one else has any solutions except to let this war continue forever. But I'll add, the president has had multiple conversations and a visit from President Macron of France, Prime Minister Starmer of the United Kingdom. We have the NATO Secretary General coming next week. We have this meeting with the Ukrainians. We've had it with the Russians. All of this in the president's first month in his leadership. We will engage in the shuttle diplomacy, and we will continue to use his leadership and what leverage we have to get both sides of the peace table. It's not going to be easy, but President Trump...
This war should have never happened. It would have never happened if I were president, but it did happen. So a lot of other things shouldn't have happened, too.
You put out...
Listen, I think Putin is trying to use us. And by us, I mean Trump. Because it seems like he spoke like he wanted to get it done and get him to come to the table, Zelensky to come to the table and Ukraine. And as soon as he started seeing signs, he just started hitting harder and harder. So it was like, I got you where I want you now. Now I'm just going in on you. Like, it's crazy right now. Putin don't seem like he wanted to stop. Well, he may want it to stop, but he wanted to stop them to give in to his terms, not to come to an agreement, it seems like.
A police car behind me put the lights on, so I stepped on the side, right, to let him pass through, but it didn't happen. So he just parked in front of my car, the other one parked behind me, and they just got out of the car with the guns in the hands and say, turn off the car, give me the keys, open the window. And at this point, they didn't ask me for any ID. I was telling the officer if I can give him the ID, but he said that just keep my hands up, not moving. After that, he told me to get out of the car, and then he put the handcuffs on me. And then he went to me and said, how did I get into this country? And if I was waiting for court or if I have any case. And he looked at his other partner like, you know, smiling, like saying, can you believe this guy? At this point, I was with handcuffs sitting on the sidewalk. And then he took my ID and saw that it was a real ID. The other guy said, take the handcuffs off, take the handcuffs off. I was a Trump supporter. I voted for Trump last elections, but because I thought it was going to be the things, you know, like be pointless, like just go against criminals, not every illegal Hispanic looking like that they will assume we are illegals. That's what they're doing now. They're just following Hispanic people looking like, because they didn't ask me for anything.
I honestly do not understand the price of groceries these days. I love beef, but guys, at this rate, I can't afford to eat beef. I can't afford it.
Nah, man, you gotta go back to eating sirloins or the red tag meat. Who remember the red tag meat? And I ain't talking about the tag that say Canada, that discount meat. You gotta go back and finding that. You used to find that depending on what type of stores you had. In our area where I was living at, we had Bilo, and we had in certain areas IGAs. We had Piggly Wigglies. We had Harvey's. And in certain stores, you knew you could go in and find that red tag meat. That red tag meat. Oh, buddy, it was on then. You got to go back to shopping like that now. You know what I mean? Catching that meat right before it expire and change colors. That's when you got to attack. That's We in survival mode now, baby. We got to pull out all the old school stops.
You want to know why your sandwich costs so much at the local restaurant? My friend Dan sent me a text the other day. He was at one of my restaurants. He said, Brian, I just ordered a BLT at $16. You realize it's just bread, bacon, lettuce, and tomato. I said, yeah, Dan, but let me give you some restaurant perspective. In today's economy, my rent is $20,000 a month. My utilities are $6,000 a month. And my labor is currently running about $60,000 a month. That's at 28%. So I'm in for $86,000 a month before I sell a single sandwich. At a 32% food cost, I have about $11 profit in that sandwich. That means I have to sell 93,800 sandwiches a year, or 257 a day, just to break even and make no money. 1.5 million in revenue, and I don't make a dime. That's why your sandwich costs so much. That's a reflection on our economy.
I hate to hear that. I do. Honestly, I hate to hear that. But me as a consumer, as a customer, I ain't paying 16. Like, it's a lot of restaurants that keep getting X'd off my list when I get up to the drive-thru and at the little monitor to order, and they tell me them prices. Oh, after I pay, I'll be like, all right, I'm not going back there. It's a few of y'all on my list right now. You know what I mean? The Zaxby's. Y'all done went crazy. Y'all done went crazy now. Yeah. I'm Xing them off, bro. $16 for a BL. I can make a BLT at home. Yep, several of them with a loaf of bread and bacon. I get a lot of that in a pack. Matter of fact, I can get the bacon in a pack and cut it in half and stretch it even further. You know what I mean? Lettuce, I can buy the whole head of lettuce and chop that bad boy up. Yeah, we back to those times now.
Oil is oil, right? Well, not exactly. Some of it looks like this, while some of it looks more like this. And that is one of the biggest reasons why President Trump's energy plans don't quite add up.
We will drill, baby, drill. We're going to drill, baby, drill.
Trump is vowing to turbocharge oil production. It's a move he hopes will reduce gas prices and increase U.S. energy independence. But U.S. fossil fuels are already booming. Oil companies here produce more crude than any other country, ever, amounting to around 13 million barrels a day. At the same time, the U.S. is exporting crude oil at record levels. So what's going on? Well, the oil that comes out of the ground in the U.S. is almost all light crude oil. It's like this champagne. Whereas U.S. oil refineries were built to process a blend of light and heavy crude oil, this stuff looks more like these coffee grounds. Built decades before the modern oil boom, American refineries were designed to process heavy oil from other countries, and not all have adapted to lighter oil. It would be incredibly expensive for all refineries to adapt if places like Canada shut off heavy oil supplies. And the U.S. makes a lot of money exporting its light crude overseas. In other words, despite all the oil drilling here, the U.S. still needs imports, which averages nearly 6.5 million barrels a day, coming mostly from Canada, Mexico, and Saudi Arabia, who pump a lot of heavy oil. So when Trump said this about Canada,
we don't need their oil and gas. We have more than anybody.
It's not entirely true. And even if refineries spent gobs of money to swap out equipment to process U.S. oil, they'd still struggle to meet the country's demand, which is now at over 20 million barrels every day.
Yo, y'all can say what y'all want to say about Donald Trump, but look at the gas prices. I know y'all say presidents don't control gas, but in North Carolina, I ain't seen gas at $2.59 in a minute. You know what I'm saying? And you see the no ethanol is $3.39, and I believe that the premium is like $3.79 here. So gas is coming down. You know what I'm saying? It's going to take some time, but yeah, y'all can see it. $2.59. I thought I was seeing things when I first looked. I was like, what, $2.59? What? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, gas prices coming down. Now, can we get these energy bills down and the cost of eggs down? We'll be doing something. Give it time. Maybe Doge is working. Just saying.
What's up, y'all? It's your boy Jay Halim. Good afternoon. Listen, right? I'm bugging, man, because we saw that the SpaceX thing just blew up again. I'm talking it's maybe about the third or fourth time in like 12 months or something like that. But this thing costs millions and millions of dollars to make. And we're supposed to be talking about government efficiency and saving us some money, right? Elon makes $8 million. Well, his companies make $8 million a day. I ain't say a week. I ain't say a month. I ain't say a quarter. $8 million a day from the government, from the federal government. This means that you can have over $50 million if he took a week off. That can save and change. Now, I would like to know, I'm sure one of these things that keep blowing up is probably $50 million of government money.
That's probably more than that. I wonder if I can search that up. Let me see.
Because I know how it goes. Then he ain't spending that money out of his pocket. That's government money. Research, all that bullshit. And here, you're causing problems. We already got planes falling out the goddamn air. So now we got to worry about if you're going to have some blow up in the middle of the night and some plane probably trying to land in Florida or in the Bahamas and screw up something. But again, somebody said it very, very clearly. How is this situation not a conflict of interest? How? And who is fact checking or who's the watchdog that's watching you and trying to see what you're doing with the $8 million and the $3 billion on contract that you just got in 2024 with the U.S. government? I mean, who is saying where's that money going, and is he spending it on what he's supposed to be spending it on, and how this is helping our GDP, and how this is helping inflation, and how this is helping make more money, and instead of the tariffs? Like, what are we doing here? Now, again, if you listening to the video, because a lot of people just see something and just run off, but if you're listening to the video, I'm not against tariffs. I'm not against any of the stuff for the most part. I'm against lying. I'm against bullshitting around with the American people's time, energy, money, and everything else. And more importantly, their livelihoods. Because again, you can't on one end be saying you're trying to clean up government and talk about funds and things of that nature, but then go over here and start wasting money. Because that's what's happening. If you see that thing blow up like that and it keeps blowing up, that's a waste of money. But the checks keep clearing, whether they got it or not. I checked the debt calendar, or the debt clock, I'm sorry, for the United States. It's still 36 trillion. I ain't see none of it go down yet. In fact, it's keep climbing higher and higher and higher. So are we really helping, or y'all just f***ing around? I think it's the latter. Y'all drop comments down below. Let me know what y'all think.
So, a quick search, and I do mean a quick search. It says cost per launch. The expendable Starship costs $100 million per launch. The goal is to eventually make a booster fully reusable. $100 million is what it's saying per launch. That's what I'm seeing. Let me see. Somebody said, how much does the Starship booster cost? Adds up to a total input cost of $90 million. So you see what type of numbers are being spat out, right? Yeah. I told y'all though that people was gonna start saying that. People were gonna start saying this.
This Gene Hackman death does not sit right with me. And I'm not even one of those people that like investigates celebrity deaths or anything like that. Totally not one of those people. I'm always a little suspicious when people in Hollywood just die out of nowhere. And I mean, obviously, aren't we all? It like happens frequently. And obviously there's so much dark crap going on in Hollywood, but his death in particular with his wife and their dog, I don't know if anybody read the additional information that came out. I believe it was today, but what they're saying is she died from a rare rodent-derived flu-like disease, right? That's like not very common.
Yeah, hantavirus. I figured out what that was after doing some more research. Yeah, thing like from rodents. So it's like if you're gonna be in the garage or something like that, make sure you have on a mask. If you possibly had rodents in your garage and their droppings is everywhere, make sure you have on a mask. I never knew that. Never knew that. Or anywhere in your house, if you've had and you come across a mouse problem, you know?
She died, and then Jean died a week later. And how they're trying to kind of piece together everything in the story is that he was like so far gone with Alzheimer's that he probably didn't even realize she was dead. And then he died of something to do with his heart. And the dog died in a crate. I thought it was a closet, but I guess it was a crate. I don't know. I feel like I thought it was a closet, but it's a kennel, a crate of dehydration and starvation. But as soon as I read that, something was just like, just off. That's just off, right? Isn't that just off? The fact that she died, for a week, he lived with her. And they're saying that he was so far gone that he like didn't realize. And then, I don't know. I mean, honestly, when I first heard this story, it was kind of like, what the heck? But now, after hearing that, I'm just, I don't know. Something seems off. This Jean Hackman.
I don't know. I think it's super sad is what it is, man. Can you imagine? You know what I mean? She probably was helping him, you know, taking care of him with his condition. So when she passed and his condition started getting worse with nobody seeing about him, he probably didn't realize it got worse than he didn't realize she was gone, and he's going around, moving around the house, not himself, unable to probably take care of himself. Like, this is, it's like, where's the family? Like, where's, do they have kids? That's my question. Like, where's the family?
A 6'4" man was allowed in to undress, fully expose himself. He was fully naked, of course, fully intact, inches away from where we, as 18, 19, 20-year-old girls, were fully undressed. I can't even put into words just the feelings of violation, the feelings of it's humiliating, it's awkward, it's embarrassing, it's uncomfortable, but most importantly, like, I just remember feeling so betrayed. I felt so betrayed by my university, by the NCAA, by people who I believed had our best interests at heart. And without even a blink of an eye, they threw our rights to privacy as women entirely out of the window. And what we saw result from that was women who, rather than going into the locker room to undress, they found other outlets. I know there were several girls, several of my teammates even, who opted to change in the janitor's closet next to like dirty mops, as opposed to being exposed to a naked man and exploited to a naked man. So when they talk about inclusivity, what that really is exclusivity, and what they're excluding is women out of women's locker rooms.
Yeah, again, for y'all, whichever side of the line you stand on, you know what I mean? Whether you're a Democrat or Republican, that is just wrong. And if you don't think of it as wrong, think of it this way. If that was your girl, your little girl, your daughter, how would you feel? How would you feel as a parent? Forget thinking about it from a political standpoint. Think about it as a human being, father figure standpoint, or a mother standpoint. How would you feel if that was your daughter in the locker room? I wouldn't appreciate it. I would have a huge problem with it as a parent. I don't have daughters, I have sons. And I wouldn't allow my sons to do that. So it's like, not cool. Not cool. And if you've ever been in a locker room, you know how it is in a locker room. You know how it is.
Some Tesla owners say they're being targeted as the public turns on company CEO and government hatchet man Elon Musk.
I'm getting like salutes from Subarus and stuff. I had guys going like this out of windows and middle fingers. It's crazy.
Stephen Minnick, who's owned his Cybertruck since last April, caught this on camera.
People came up and used their finger and drew male phalluses all over and some rather pornographic words, I guess. You know, I actually had to look up a couple because I didn't know what they meant.
Some owners who no longer want to be associated with Musk are selling their Teslas.
It was entirely because of the way he was behaving in public and the extremism that he was portraying.
Jennifer Vargas purchased hers in August of last year. She got rid of it 6 months later.
And I love the car. I like everything about it, but it was just his name being attached to it that became the issue.
I felt liberated getting rid of it. I think many of us feel that we are voiceless, powerless, unable to really make an impact on what's going on in the country right now, and getting rid of my car was a pretty easy thing to do.
David Nathan dumped his Tesla before President Trump's inauguration. This month, he joined a protest outside a showroom in Boston.
I was not expecting that I'd be protesting what car I drove, or Musk, the person who made the car.
Tesla shares have tumbled more than 30% since Trump took office and Musk began wielding power. Investors worry Musk is damaging the Tesla brand.
It's been a disaster so far this year. After a historic run post-Trump winning presidency, and this has been, I think, a white knuckle moment for Tesla shareholders.
But does this signal long-term problems?
Now listen, you're talking about one of the most bullish tech guys ever. Dan Ives is saying that? Like, that's pretty interesting to hear that coming from him. And they say it's down like, what, 30-something% right now? Sheesh, if you're a Tesla stock owner, you're sweating right now. You're sweating. And everything he does makes you sweat a little bit more.
But does this signal long-term problems for the company?
When you're selling mass market, politics is never good. Musk knows that, but he's not someone that's going to back away because of it. I mean, the bet for the ages continues to be Trump. Having a front row seat at the White House, what that means for autonomous and a broader vision, I think that's a huge part of the value of Tesla going forward.
Tesla owner Stephen Minnick says he has no plans to part ways with his Cybertruck, despite the likelihood of continuing attacks.
I'm a nice guy. I don't deserve this kind of vitriol. If you're mad, go protest whatever you're protesting. Keep your hands to yourselves.
Yeah, man. Listen, these people ain't got nothing to do with Elon. Leave them alone, man. Leave the people alone, bro. Y'all taking this a little bit too far. You're gonna run up on the wrong person, and you're gonna find out real quick. FAFO. Real quick. Stop playing with people like that. Number two, they made an interesting point. Elon Musk is gambling big. So this is the conversation I've been having in my head with myself, because I've been watching Tesla stock, and it's whether or not I believe it will turn around. And if it does turn around, people are gonna make a stupid amount of money. Stupid amount. Because you're gonna wish you bought the dip. And with him, like Dan Ives was saying, him having a front row seat to Trump, if he gets, and that's a strong if, and that's the game you play with trading. If he turns this thing around, but a lot of people felt like the stock was gassed up anyway, so it was way overvalued with that run up, because it kind of just ran up for no reason. It wasn't really nothing that really sparked this run up like that, other than the election and him being next to Trump. So with people feeling like it was overvalued, some people feel like it's coming back down to value anyway. So it's all dependent on who you talk to and everything like that. But if this thing turns around and runs up, whew. But that's always an if, and it's always you're playing probability, so you never know. Part of the game.
Well, this morning it seemed President Trump might be shifting his tone toward Russia. He posted this on social media, quote, "Based on the fact that Russia is absolutely pounding Ukraine on the battlefield right now, I am strongly considering large-scale banking sanctions and tariffs on Russia till a ceasefire and final settlement agreement on peace is reached. To Russia and Ukraine, get to the table right now before it is too late. Thank you." But that
sound like a parent. Sound like a parent. Hey, didn't I tell y'all dinner was ready? You able to get down to this table now. I ain't gonna call y'all again. it just sounded like, I'm sorry, put me in the mind of a parent calling everybody to dinner.
Sure didn't last long. Hours later, he had this exchange with a reporter.
President Putin is bombing Ukraine.
Yeah.
Do you still believe him when he tells you that he wants peace?
Yeah, no, I believe him. I believe him. I think we're doing very well with Russia. But right now they're bombing the hell out of Ukraine, and Ukraine, I'm finding it more difficult, frankly, to deal with Ukraine. And they don't have the cards. They don't have the cards.
From large-scale banking sanctions to we're doing very, very well with Russia in just a few hours. Again, like in that Oval Office confrontation, President Trump said that Ukrainian President Zelensky doesn't have the cards. He also doesn't have military aid and some intelligence sharing, which the president has paused. Today, President Trump also suspended Ukraine's access to certain commercial satellite imagery purchased by the U.S. government. Ukraine uses the imagery to track Russian troop movements. Now, that news comes as Russia launched a major assault on several regions across Ukraine last night. 70 missiles and almost 200 drones were used. Two U.S. defense officials tell CNN that the U.S. is still sharing intelligence Ukraine can use to defend itself, but has, quote, scaled back sharing intelligence that could be used to go on the offense. Today,
they forcing Ukraine to surrender. When you start removing stuff like that, backing away and everything like that, it's like they forcing them into a corner. I don't think Ukraine can hold out for much longer. I get it.
The president was asked about the attacks and the pause in aid.
Do you, Mr. President, think that Vladimir Putin is taking advantage of the U.S. pause right now on intelligence and military aid to Ukraine?
No, I actually think he's doing what anybody else would do. I think he wants to get it stopped and settled, and I think he's hitting them harder than he's been hitting them. And I think probably anybody in that position would be doing that right now.
And joining me now is John Bolton, who served as National Security Advisor to the President during his first term and as U.S. Ambassador to the UN in the George W. Bush administration. Ambassador Bolton, thanks for being here. How does this president go from talking about sanctions in the morning against Russia to essentially saying their strategy of pounding Ukraine is what anybody would do in this situation and taking advantage of the president's position?
Well, because I think he knew that the so-called threat this morning was totally hollow, as did Vladimir Putin. And he did it simply to try and show some kind of balance given the things he had said about Zelensky and the Ukrainians. If you look at the statement about the actual threat, he threatens three things: banking sanctions, sanctions, and tariffs. Now, I'll assume there's banking sanctions are just a subset of sanctions. I don't know why you would have two separate things.
But let's
take tariffs first. I don't understand it. Who knows? But on tariffs, Russian exports to the United States last year, the only year we have full statistics, were a little bit less than $3 billion, which is trivial compared to the total volume of U.S. trade with the rest of the world. And in fact, in 2021, in other words, the last full year before Russia's invasion in 2022, they were about $30 billion. So over this period of time since the invasion, U.S. imports from Russia have already shrunk 90%. So the tariff thing is effectively meaningless. Banking sanctions, you know, if there are banking sanctions we haven't imposed on Russia, I'd like to know why not. But in any event, as with really all the sanctions that have been imposed, and this is a general problem for sanctions, Russia has very successfully evaded, particularly the financial sanctions, moving through China's opaque financial system to get into global markets. So I think Putin completely understood that threat was totally hollow.
It seems now the U.S. is not doing cyber operations against Russia, according to reporting. We've mentioned new reporting that the Trump administration has suspended Ukraine's access to commercial satellite imagery purchased by the U.S. government, which comes after the pause, obviously, in U.S. military aid and the sharing of intelligence. How long do you think the Ukrainians can hold up without that kind of support?
Well, and it's a question of what other NATO members may be able to supply them. I think it's really despicable to stop providing the intelligence to Ukraine. This is all part of how Trump does business. It's all personal. I know this is hard to understand, that people think there's some policy behind it, but it's not. Trump believes that U.S. relations with other countries are embodied in his personal relations with the foreign heads of state. He thinks Vladimir Putin is his friend. He's never liked Zelensky, not since the famous perfect phone call in 2019. And this is what you're getting. But if I may come to this order suspending offensive cyber operations against Russia, this is a huge mistake for the United States. Forget Ukraine. This isn't going to make Russia more eager to come to the table. It's the rest of Trump's policies abandoning Ukraine and taking Russia's side that prevent Russia from coming to the table. Why should they negotiate when Trump gives them everything they want? And even more importantly, I think the cyber operators would tell you that part of what's important here, dealing with Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, any of our cyber adversaries, is to have what they call persistent engagement. If you're not always probing the Russians, you're giving them a chance to tee up their own offensive operations. If there were some deal here, a momentary truce, that'd be one thing. This looks to me like just another Trump giveaway.
And just so I'm clear, is it true that Russia is always probing the U.S. and civilian infrastructure and hospitals and electrical systems to try to see weaknesses?
I think that's clear. The Russians say, oh, it's not Russia. No, it's some troll farm operating under some fake name, some cutout operation. But they're doing it all the time. And really, I think we've improved our offensive game beginning in the Trump administration when we loosened Obama administration restrictions on offensive cyber. But cyber's like any other human domain. If you're not probing the adversary, you're taking risks for America. Again, forget Ukraine here. That's not part of the equation. This is backing away from dealing with the Russian cyber threat. I think it's a big mistake.
Ambassador Bolton, I appreciate your time. Thank you.